Hello and welcome to another edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast on today, Friday, April 18th. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to preview some of the upcoming spring games for this weekend, some key storylines to follow across the country, and a few different programs. Also going to preview some of the West Coast Big Ten teams today. Going to talk a little bit about Washington, talk a little bit about Oregon, get into their seasons, kind of go position by position as I've been doing, break them down. We're also then going to talk a little bit about Lee Corso, his retirement. Make sure you stick around for that. It's going to be a good show, though. We're going to have a lot of fun today. And before I get into anything, though, I want to remind everyone to please like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate your support. We thrive on it. And we would love to hear from you, whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, any insights that you have, any opinion that you have to share that you need to get out. We would love to hear it. We want to make this show as exciting, as interactive as possible. One way to be interactive in the show is to use the super chat feature. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. It guarantees that it gets on the air, gets read, and we just love your comments. We love your support. It helps us keep the lights on and keep bringing you more of the sports content that you love. If you don't want to use super chat, you can also go to gsmcsports.net to tip, donate, leave a comment or question there. We are going to talk a little bit about some of the spring games this weekend. So there were a few last weekend. Georgia was last weekend. Texas was last weekend. A couple other programs. Tennessee was last weekend. But this weekend is going to be another big weekend for spring games. One school that I'm really looking at is Colorado. Their game is going to be tomorrow. Obviously, this is going to be kind of a transition year for the Buffaloes after losing quarterback Shedeur Sanders, losing Travis Hunter. Those are going to be the two main departures for Colorado. Also losing Jimmy Horn at wide receiver, a couple other guys. But this is going to be a new era for Colorado. We're not really sure what they look like without Shedeur Sanders or Travis Hunter. Not really sure kind of what they look like or what Deion looks like even. He has never not coached his son in college. Shiloh's also going to be gone. I think it's going to be kind of an adjustment for him, honestly. I wonder if it's really going to impact Deion more so than Shedeur or Travis Hunter or the rest of the team. I could see this being something where it kind of more affects Deion, just how he kind of operates as a coach. It's going to be a little bit different just without his sons there in that program with him. That's going to be really interesting for me to watch. I think that's going to be the big storyline here is just kind of how he interacts, how he still leads his team. This has really been a time for grabbing new talent, kind of restocking and maintaining that momentum. That's really been what Deion's kind of been pushing there at Colorado. Had a really strong recruiting class in 2025. Brought in Julian Lewis, brought in London Merritt, who was a big-time DN pickup from them from Florida. Also brought in Quentin Gibson, Christian Hudson, a couple other ESPN 300 guys. So they have multiple ESPN 300 recruits. Julian Lewis is obviously going to be the headliner here. The quarterback competition, that's going to be another big storyline to follow. Will it be Julian Lewis? He's really kind of impressed during spring this season, showcased his arm strength, showcased his accuracy during all these practices in the spring, kind of just indicating that, he's got a promising future. This is a guy that will be the quarterback of the future for Colorado. Even if it's not this year in 2025, Julian Lewis will be the guy there at one point. But that's going to be a big thing here is, will it be Caden Salter? Will it be Julian Lewis to start off? We're not really sure yet. That's going to be the big point of emphasis here I'm looking at. D-line should also be a strength here. Kind of going to showcase some of those guys, Jaheim Otis, Anquan Barnes, Amari McNeil, They're kind of all projected to be in the top of the Big 12, just across categories. There's a couple different edge rushers there. There's a lot of depth. The one thing I want to key in on, though, for this week is their skill positions. Who's going to replace those guys? They didn't have a lot returning at wide receiver, at running back. So I think that's going to be one of the big things to watch in their spring game this weekend, is kind of who's manning those positions, who's in the backfield. Will it be Caden Salter? Will it be Juju Lewis running out with the first team? I think those are all going to be kind of things to watch. And also linebacker, I think, is an interesting point of emphasis for Colorado. Vontae Bentley's going to be gone, as well as Nikai Hill Green. So those are two big leaders, veteran presences on the defensive side of the ball that are going to have to be replaced. How Colorado does that, I think, is going to be kind of interesting to watch. And that's one of the things I'm looking out for in their spring game this weekend. Looking at Michigan, obviously all eyes are going to be on quarterback here at Michigan. Everyone wants to see how Bryce Underwood's going to look. Number 1 rated quarterback, number 1 overall prospect in 2025. He's the future of Michigan. Pretty much kind of what they do rests on Bryce Underwood. I don't know if he'll really play that much this year. I think that's going to be kind of interesting just to see how much he actually plays. Will he be starting from week 1? I'm kind of leaning towards he won't be starting week 1. I don't know, though. That's really honestly a toss-up. But how he fares in the spring game, I think, will also kind of play a factor in that decision of whether he's going to start week 1 or maybe Mikey Keene starts for 3 or 4 weeks and then eventually hands over the reins to Bryce Underwood. I think that's going to be kind of something to watch here at Michigan. So obviously, Michigan spring game this weekend, all eyes are on the quarterbacks. I think Bryce Underwood's performance this weekend is more important than Mikey Keene's, just in terms of how ready he is for the start of the season. That's going to be something to watch at Michigan. Texas A&M also is going to have their spring game this weekend. They had an interesting season last year, finished 8-5, but they were pretty highly ranked for a good chunk of the season. Had a lot of talent, but they are going to lose some guys this year. They're going to lose Shamar Stewart, who honestly wasn't great in college. Nick Scourton, though, he was the other defensive end. He was a lot more productive throughout his college career in College Station. Going to lose both those guys. So I think D-line, kind of just what they do there, that's going to be interesting to see who kind of rotates in. They also brought a couple transfers in, especially at wide receiver. Brought Casey Concepcion in. That's going to be a big name there. TJ Searcy on the defensive side of the ball at DN. Julian Humphrey at cornerback. Those are going to be guys that I'm really looking at for this game, kind of how they're integrated into the Texas A&M system, into that team. I think it's going to be interesting. Also, with Colin Klein running the offense, former Kansas State offensive coordinator, former Heisman finalist at Kansas State, actually had a great season his last year at Kansas State. I still remember that, but new offensive coordinator there, going to have a new system. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how he implements that. I wonder who's going to start at quarterback here. They do have Marcel Reed coming back. Connor Wigman's also coming back off of a major injury. So which one of those two guys? I think that's kind of what the competition is between right now. Jalen Henderson's also kind of in name. He's in the competition right now. I really think it's more Connor Wigman, Marcel Reed that are really fighting for that job, that position right now. Obviously recruited great again, had the number 9 high school recruiting class in the country, number 10 portal class. Also, they're number 6 nationally in returning production, which I think is a really interesting stat, more important than people think. Just having those guys coming back, having the continuity, that could make Texas A&M a lot scarier this upcoming season. The thing to watch for them, though, is going to be just defensive consistency. Obviously, we're not going to see that in the spring game. There's really no defense played in spring games. Let's be honest. I mean, nobody. You're not tackling. You're not going full go. Your defense isn't really going to play that much. It's more of an offensive showcase, but still going to be keying in on those guys, kind of how they're moving throughout the positions. If they're just kind of moving efficiently, playing smart, that's going to be a big thing with Texas A&M. Kind of they had a lot of miscues in their secondary last year. That's going to be a big thing, just kind of reducing big plays, having those communication skills, and just not giving up massive plays of 20-plus yards in terms of gain. That's going to be a big thing for Texas A&M. South Carolina also is going to have their spring game. That one's actually tonight, Friday night. It's at like 7:30 Eastern time, something like that. But they're going to be another team that I'm looking at. We're 9-4 last season. Shane Beamer had a 9-win season at South Carolina. That's only been matched by Steve Spurrier in the past 40 years. So pretty impressive for Shane Beamer. I think this is going to be a team. I'm really high on South Carolina this season, and I like Lenore Sellers a lot. Dylan Stewart, obviously going to be another guy where he was a 5-star phenom, had a really strong true freshman year last year, will be a sophomore this season, going to be kind of the cornerstone of that defense. I think he's going to step up and play phenomenal. One of the things to look at here is going to be just position battles. Defensive front seven, it's kind of all in transition. Losing Kyle Kennard to the draft. Obviously, Stewart does return, but a couple other guys are leaving. So they brought in a bunch of transfers, though. Brought in Jalen Brown from Missouri, Justin Okoronkwo from Bama, Sean Murphy, Florida State. There's a couple different guys. It's going to be a dogfight to see who actually starts there opposite Dylan Stewart. But there's going to be a bunch of guys that are going to rotate in. I think that's going to be a position to watch for during this spring game this weekend, is kind of who's playing with that number one defense, that number one D-line, who's rotating in there. I think it's going to be kind of interesting. That's going to be a spot to look for South Carolina this weekend. Running back is also going to be a big position here. Rocket Sanders, he's gone. He is departing, so they're going to need a new running back. And Rocket had a really strong season last year. There's a couple different guys vying for that role right now, vying for carries. And that's going to be another position to see who's lining up next to Lenore Sellers in the backfield with the first-team offense. I think that's going to be kind of interesting. Probably going to be a backfield by committee, but still not really sure who's going to be the at least 1A back. You know, it could be a 1A, 1B type scenario, but still not sure who's going to be that, first guy to trot out on the field with the first team offense there. So we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we are going to preview the Washington Huskies, talk about their upcoming season, expectations, position breakdowns. So we're going to get into all that shortly, and we'll be back on the GSMC College Football Podcast.